The migrants that have gone missing, I mean, I think anybody with the sort of mental age of 10 could have told the Home Office that if you put a load of people in a hotel and you don't restrict their movements in any way, when you tell them you're going to come and round them up to send them to Rwanda, they're probably going to scarper.
Mike, I put this in the box of who on earth could have predicted that this would happen?
Yes.
Oh, everyone in the world except Home Office civil servants.
Yes.
And, it's the least surprising story I've heard all week. What really concerns me, actually, I'm here in Lancashire at the moment. You can probably see the beautiful countryside behind me.
Yes.
Is we've got a few of these migrant hotels, and all of these young men, and they are all young men, we don't know anything about their background. They've thrown their papers away when they've come into this country, are wandering around the streets of Lancashire and other towns, including places like Darwin and Rosendale, other towns, completely untracked, uncared for, sort of free to do so. And as much as them scarpering, which is just not surprising whatsoever, what really concerns me is we have these young men walking around our towns with nothing else to do and no form of sort of knowledge of what they're doing. And I just don't think that's right.
Right. I mean, are you one of those then that would say, wouldn't it make more sense to give them the opportunity to get a job? Because at least then if they had a job, we would know perhaps more about their identity. We would be able to kind of, keep track of them better, and they would actually have something to do as opposed to being just sort of aimlessly, annoying.
Yeah, Mike, well, look, I mean, why wouldn't we let them get a job? I mean, keeping track of them would be the least of my concerns. My main thing would be stopping the British taxpayer having to pay for them to be sat in hotels. If they got a job, they could pay for their own hotel room like everyone else. The thing is, Mike, for this Rwanda policy to work, and I am encouraged that we've seen some news, particularly the news coming out in Ireland, that they're all having a bit of a panic because people are fleeing the UK rather than want to be sent to Rwanda. We've seen some news that it would work. We have to get to the point that people are rounded up on the beaches in Dover or wherever else they come into, put in a detention centre, and a few days later shoved on a plane to go to Rwanda. That's the real disincentive. Once people are living in our communities for 6, 12, 18 months unmonitored, then we're going to lose track of them. As I say, it's the least surprising story of the week.
It is. But then on the other side of the fence, I suppose, you've got those who might want not to abscond because they've been promised some kind of accommodation outside of a hotel, which for a lot of people is also sort of slightly unsettling, because in small towns, particularly in parts of Lancashire and Yorkshire and perhaps the Midlands, you're getting people moving into streets randomly, occupying sort of what they call multiple occupancy houses and probably staying there for quite some time.
Well, the whole thing's completely unsatisfactory, isn't it? We just need to round up is probably a bit of a pejorative term. We just need to detain people on the beach, send them somewhere like a military barracks, and then send them off. The whole thing just doesn't work. My main thing is people living, here, just look at these houses when their sons or daughters who are just starting out in life can't get their own home and say, I paid tax my whole life. Yeah. Why am I paying for someone to live in the house next door to me when my kids can't get their own home?
Yeah. I mean, we've had callers today and people messaging us today saying, look, if Rishi Sunak can finally get a grip on this, he might actually have a chance against Labour in a general election. I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute in terms of what the timing might be. But, I mean, does he know that, do you think? Does he understand that, it wouldn't take a lot to perhaps stop people from voting for Keir Starmer?
Well, there's nothing really appealing about Keir Starmer, is there? I've been knocking. The reason I'm up north and coming down to London today is I've been knocking on doors all day yesterday, talking to voters here, and they tell me there's nothing appealing about Keir Starmer. But that is why Rishi Sunak has made this such a priority. He says that the flights will be leaving in now a maximum of 11 weeks. He said 12 weeks last week. I'm counting. And I do think that when people see those flights taking off, they will think again about supporting the Conservatives. I certainly hope they do. But I do, I do go back to this point that, we are seeing this working already. The Irish are whinging on, saying people are leaving Ireland, coming to the Republic of Ireland, and, we want to send them back to the UK. The Prime Minister's quite rightly said, no way whatsoever until you let us send everybody who arrives in the UK back to France. This policy is going to work. People just have to stick with it and stick with the Prime Minister, and he and we as Conservatives will be proved right.